Welcome to this video. Today, you're going to learn the difference between two common verb tenses: to be going to do something, I'm going to call him later, and the second one, I'll be calling him later. So the future continuous, will be, and then your verb in ing. I will be calling him later. What's the difference between I'm going to call him later and I will be calling him later? Well, that's what you'll learn today. Of course, I'm Jennifer from JForrestEnglish.com, and this channel is dedicated to helping you feel confident speaking English in public so you can take your career and your life to the next level. Now, before we go any further, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell icon so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. Now, let's dive in with this lesson.
Okay, this is a question on two verb tenses, going to go and will be going. So it's always useful to see this in an example sentence. You could say, I'm going to call him later. Notice we have our verb to be, our going, our gerund with go, and then we have to and a base verb. I'm going to call him later. Or, okay, so the structure of this, I just said it, but to say it again, now that you can see it, we have our verb to be, of course, here conjugated with their subject. We have going to, and then we have our base verb. So going to, and then our base verb of the verb call. So that's our structure here. Now, just a note, most students do this anyway, but just so you know, going to this section here, we pronounce it as gonna in spoken English. And that's just a natural pronunciation change that happens. We don't think about it consciously. I don't decide to say it. It just comes out naturally. It's just what happens with the combination of sounds. Now, we also use this in written English, but if you're going to use it in written English, it has to be an informal conversation because technically it's slang in written English. It's not an actual dictionary word. So if you want to use it in writing, definitely go ahead, but just make sure the context is informal. Okay, so when do we use this verb tense? I'm going to call him later. Well, we use this to talk about general future intentions. You can think about it as something that's 75% arranged. So you have your likelihood of doing it is very high, but there's still a chance that you won't do it, okay? So I might say, I'm going to watch a movie tonight. But remember, this is about 75% arranged. So there is still some element of it being not a finished plan, not a finalized plan. So this is my plan, but maybe I haven't picked the movie yet. I haven't decided on a time. I don't know where. There might be some elements that aren't definitive, but it's 75% arranged. So my plan could change. Like it is possible, but this is my intention for the future. Now, we could say, I'm going to call him tonight. Again, this is the exact same. This is my plan, but it could change because it's just an intention at this point. Now let's compare this. I'm going to call him later. I'm gonna call him later to I'll be calling him later. I'll be calling him later. This is a verb tense that native speakers don't use very often, to be honest. And that's the future continuous. The future continuous verb tense. It's not a very common verb tense, but it's still a verb tense, and there's still a time when you need to use it. So let's compare these two sentences. I'm going to call him tonight. I'll be calling him later. So this is the future continuous, the structure. we have will. This is our will right here. Then we have be. Here we go. You don't need to conjugate be. It's just always be. And then you take your verb and you put it in the ing form. So here our verb is call. So you just put it in the ing form. I'll be calling him later. Now, to give you another example, I might say, I'll be watching a movie tonight. So all I have to do is change my verb from call to watch and then just add an ing. So pretty easy to conjugate, right? Because no matter what subject you use, you're still using will as well. You'll be, she'll be, will be, right? There's no difference. So it's pretty easy for conjugation. Will, be, and then your ing. So when do we use this? This is used in a very specific way. And that's why it's not the most common verb tense, because we only use it in one specific way, and that's to talk about something happening at a specific point in the future. Okay, that's when we use it. We don't use it just to talk about our plans for the future. We have to imagine that it's the future, and at that future moment, I'm doing something. And then I'm now describing what I will be doing in a future moment. So it's just not very common in conversation that we talk about that, right? We don't imagine a future moment and then tell someone what we will be doing at that future moment. We more so talk about it just as our future intentions. So that's why it's just not a very common verb tense compared to I'm going to. Oh, I'm going to do this, going to do that. Okay, and another limitation about this verb tense is the something that is going to happen, it has to have a duration to it, because we can't use this verb tense with state of verbs, okay? You can't use it. Whatever you're doing, there has to be a duration to your action. So that's another limitation of it, where what we will be doing at a future moment, it might not have a duration. So we can't use the future continuous. So now just, the structure, the overall, let's just look when specifically you're going to use one or the other. If you're talking about plans, arrangements, general future intentions, you're going to use be going to. If you're talking about an action taking place at a specific moment in the future, you're going to use the future continuous. So let's look at some examples on Youglish, just so you can see real native speakers using these two verb tenses in a natural context. So here's an example on Youglish. I'll be discussing things that I wish I knew starting out. Now, you only see one sentence, right? That's all you see. So I might add to this a specific future moment. So I might say, on Monday during the interview, I'll be discussing. During tomorrow's meeting, I'll be sharing. Next week at the conference, I'll be presenting. So it's almost like you're projecting yourself into the future, and you're talking about what you will be doing at that future time. But there has to be an action involved that has a duration, remember. So generally, when we use the future continuous, we do mention that time in the future, because it's important to know that when we use the future continuous. So this can be a useful thing when you use the verb tense, is state that future moment. Next week, when I'm on vacation, I'll be reading my favorite book, something like that. Okay, another example. I'll be listening to you breathing. Now remember, like there's a comma here, which shows that the example keeps going, but it will switch to a different screen, right? So I can only have this one screenshot. But if I just saw this as a sentence with nothing else, I'll be listening to you breathing. My question would be, well, when? When is this going to happen? Unless it's obvious based on context. If it isn't obvious, you should state it if you're using the future continuous. So maybe it will be once the exam starts, because why else would you listen to someone breathing if you're not doing some sort of exam, some sort of, medical exam. So once the exam starts, I'll be listening to your breathing. I'll be asking you many questions. I'll be monitoring your heart rate. These are all the things that I'll be doing at this future time when the exam starts. So let's see just some examples with going to. Now, because this is such a common verb tense, I'm sure you're more comfortable seeing it. The first thing I'm going to do is, okay, remember to be, so we have I am, to be, going to, and then our base verb is do. So this one's pretty easy. It's just a general future intention. That's it. Pretty easy. Or here's another one. I'm going to marry. Who I'm going to marry. So just talking about, again, a general future intention. Here, our base verb is marry, to marry. And then because our subject is I, we have the same auxiliary verb with our verb to be am. I am. I'm going to marry. Who I'm gonna marry. Who I'm gonna marry. So let's just see these two side by side so you can understand the difference between them. So I might say, I'm going to propose to Sarah. I'm using this example because this one he's talking about who he's going to marry. So I have marriage on the brain. I'm going to propose to Sarah. So imagine I just share this with a friend. I'm going to propose to Sarah. I'm just sharing this is my general future intention. Remember, it's only about 75% arranged. So maybe at this exact moment, I don't know exactly when. I haven't picked the date or the restaurant I'm going to take her to or anything like that. But in my mind, I'm like, this is going to happen 75%. Like I'm committed, maybe not 100%, but I'm like more committed than I'm not committed to proposing to Sarah. I'm going to propose to Sarah. So general future intention. Now, I might talk about a future moment. I'm going to put myself in the future and say, I'll be getting married on Saturday at 2:00 p.m. Okay, so putting myself out, future timeline. It's Saturday, 2:00 p.m. What will you be doing? So that's the thing. This is why it's not that common, because who comes up to you and says, on Saturday at 2 p.m., what will you be doing? It's not that common, right? But it is common when we talk about goal setting. When you're thinking about your goals for the future, you might ask yourself, okay, this time next year, what will I be doing? I'll be XYZ. So when you're goal setting, things like that, it is quite common to use the future continuous, but in an everyday context, it isn't that common to project yourself into the future and imagine this action taking place. It's more common just to talk about your general future intentions. So hopefully this helps seeing two examples side by side. And if anyone has any questions, let me know.
Awesome job with this lesson. Now it's your turn to practice. I want you to leave 2 examples in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, please hit the like button, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe. And before you go, make sure you head on over to my website, JForrestEnglish.com, and download your free speaking guide. In this guide, I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. And until next time, happy studying. Awesome job adding these 2 advanced verb tenses to your speech and understanding the difference between them. I can't wait to see you in my next one. Bye!